Bison DeLay lost at sea. Bison DeLay's story is one of the most chilling mysteries in NBA history. In July of 2002, the former Chicago Bulls center set sail from Tahiti on his catamaran with his girlfriend Serena Carlin, his brother Miles DeBoard, and skipper Bertrand Saldo. Just 2 days into the trip, contact suddenly stopped. Weeks later, DeBoard returned alone, with the boat's nameplate removed, visible patchwork on bullet holes, and no one else aboard. Suspicion grew when he used DeLay's passport to buy over $150,000 worth of gold and set up mailboxes under his brother's name. French police and the FBI launched a sting operation, eventually uncovering that DeBoard had purchased heavy weights believed to sink bodies. He later claimed Serena died in an argument, the skipper was killed in panic, and Dell himself was shot in self-defense, but no evidence supported it. DeBoard slipped into a coma after intentionally taking insulin, leaving unanswered questions forever lost at sea. Malice at the Palace. On November 19, 2004, a hard foul ignited the most infamous brawl in NBA history. With 46 seconds left in a game between the Pacers and Pistons, Ben Wallace shoved Ron Artest, and tempers flared. Artest laid down on the scorer's table, seemingly cooling off until a drink came flying from the stands and struck him. That single moment unleashed chaos. Artest charged into the crowd and attacked the wrong fan. His teammates followed, and fists flew as fans hurled everything from beer to chairs. The game ended in complete bedlam. Police had to escort players to safety, and countless people were injured. The fallout was massive. 9 suspensions totaling 146 games, 5 players facing assault charges, and several fans banned for life. The NBA overhauled security rules, alcohol policies, and fan interaction standards. Even years later, Artest admitted regret, calling it the biggest mistake of his career. What began as a foul ended as a turning point that forever changed the NBA's relationship with its audience. Kobe Bryant helicopter crash, January 26, 2020, started as a normal morning, but ended in devastating tragedy. Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others boarded a helicopter heading to a youth basketball game in Thousand Oaks. Heavy fog blanketed Los Angeles skies, drowning most air traffic, but the pilot pushed ahead. At 9:45 a.m., after circling near Glendale and climbing rapidly, the helicopter crashed into a Calabasas hillside, killing everyone instantly. Investigators later blamed pilot disorientation and poor weather, noting serious violations of flight protocol. The world stopped to mourn. Tributes poured in across sports and entertainment. The Lakers postponed their next game, and when they returned, each starter was introduced as Kobe Bryant. The All-Star Game MVP award was renamed in his honor, and teams honored him with 24-second violations. His widow Vanessa later won a lawsuit after officials mishandled photos of the crash site. Today, statues of Kobe and Gianna stand near the crash location, a reminder of a legend lost far too soon. Len Bias. Few players carried as much promise as Len Bias, the Maryland forward who seemed destined for NBA superstardom. Scouts raved about his athleticism, 2-time ACC Player of the Year awards, and unmatched scoring ability. On June 17, 1986, the Boston Celtics selected him 2nd overall, expecting him to become Larry Bird's successor. But within 48 hours, Bias was gone. After celebrating with teammates back at his dorm, he collapsed from a cocaine-induced cardiac arrest. Doctors worked for hours, but he was pronounced dead that morning. The shock rocked not only basketball, but the entire nation. His death sparked the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986, which became known as the Len Bias Law. Investigations revealed he had struggled academically, failing all his final courses, and Maryland's coach and athletic director soon resigned. The Celtics presented his unused jersey to his grieving mother, and tragedy struck again when his younger brother Jay was murdered in 1990. The Bias family's heartbreak became a symbol of lost potential. Lorenzen Wright. On July 18, 2010, former NBA player Lorenzen Wright left his ex-wife's house in Tennessee and never returned. A day later, a chilling 911 call came from his phone. Gunshots echoed in the background, but the call wasn't logged for 10 days, delaying the investigation. His family filed a missing persons report, and 6 days later, his body was found in a wooded area outside Memphis. For years, the case went cold, until 2017, when a gun connected to the crime was discovered in a Mississippi lake. Soon after, police arrested Billy Turner, a church deacon, and Wright's ex-wife, Shara Wright. Investigators allege she helped orchestrate the murder for a $1 million life insurance payout. Shara eventually pled guilty in 2019 and received a 30-year sentence. The tragedy shook the Memphis community and the NBA alike, with many believing Wright's death could have been prevented if early leads were taken seriously. His story remains one of basketball's darkest chapters. Reggie Lewis. Reggie Lewis was only 27 when tragedy struck. On July 27, 1993, the Celtics star collapsed during an off-season workout at Brandeis University and never got back up. Doctors ruled it sudden cardiac arrest caused by hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a heart condition that often strikes young athletes without warning. But the story didn't end there. Controversy swirled when some doctors suggested drug use might have been involved, though no evidence ever proved it. One physician even claimed Lewis admitted to using cocaine, but the coroner found no matching signs and pointed instead to viral damage in the heart tissue. His passing sparked a bitter debate between medical experts, the Celtics organization, and his family. Despite the turmoil, Boston made sure his legacy lived on. The Celtics retired his number 35 jersey, and the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletic Center stands in his honor. His sudden loss devastated fans and teammates, and left Boston wondering what could have been if their young star had lived. Drazen Petrovic. After his breakout NBA season in 1993, Drazen Petrovic faced a crossroads. Frustrated with the lack of recognition, he debated leaving the league entirely and had massive offers from Greece on the table. Instead of flying home, he chose to drive through Germany with a new companion. On June 7th, while sleeping in the passenger seat, their car skidded on a rainy highway and crashed into a truck. Petrovic was thrown from the vehicle and killed instantly from severe head trauma. His death stunned both Croatia and the NBA. Thousands attended his funeral, and the Nets retired his number 3. The NBA held a moment of silence before the finals, and in Zagreb, a museum was eventually built in his honor. Petrovic was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2002, cementing his place as a pioneer for international players. Though his career was cut short, his influence inspired a generation and helped pave the way for European stars who dominate the league today. James R. Jordan Sr. On July 23, 1993, Michael Jordan's life changed forever. His father, James Jordan, was driving home late at night after playing golf when he pulled over to rest in his red Lexus. Two men spotted the car, noticed the UNC 00023 license plate, and decided to rob him. As he slept, they shot him, stole personal items including NBA championship rings, and dumped his body in a South Carolina swamp. For nearly 2 weeks, he wasn't identified until dental records confirmed it was him. The suspects, Daniel Green and Larry Demery, were arrested after using Jordan's phone and later convicted. Both pointed fingers at each other, keeping the truth clouded for decades. Michael was devastated, calling his father his greatest influence and the reason he pursued both basketball and baseball. The tragedy pushed him into his first retirement from the NBA, a decision that shocked the world. But that's not all. Years later, Green's legal team fought for a new trial, keeping the case alive even today. Donald Sterling banned from NBA. In April of 2014, the NBA faced one of its biggest ownership scandals. Clippers owner Donald Sterling was caught on audio telling his girlfriend not to associate publicly with black people or bring them to games, referencing Magic Johnson by name. The recording spread instantly, sparking outrage across sports and politics. Even President Obama weighed in. Within days, Commissioner Adam Silver banned Sterling for life, fined him $2.5 million, and forced the sale of the Clippers. His wife, Shelly Sterling, used medical evaluations to prove Donald was mentally unfit and pushed through a $2 billion sale to Steve Ballmer. Sterling fought in court, but eventually dropped his lawsuits. The fallout reshaped the league's approach to ownership accountability and made it clear racism would not be tolerated in leadership. But it gets crazier. Sterling later tried to stage a comeback through lawsuits and media appearances, but his reputation was beyond repair. The ban remains one of the most definitive punishments in league history. Rudy Gobert's COVID positive test. March 11, 2020 will forever be remembered as the night the NBA stopped cold. Just before tip-off between the Jazz and Thunder, news broke that Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID. The game was called off on the spot, and stunned announcers told fans to calmly exit the arena. Within hours, the entire season was suspended. Days earlier, Gobert had mocked the virus by touching microphones during a press conference, something he later apologized for. His teammate Donovan Mitchell soon tested positive, adding fuel to the story. Teams scrambled into quarantine, arenas went silent, and the league began losing hundreds of millions. For months, no one knew if basketball would return. The solution came in the form of the Orlando bubble, a never-before-seen setup that allowed the season to resume. The shutdown changed not just the NBA, but sports worldwide, showing how fast everything could vanish. And what happened next would shock everyone, because the bubble created one of the strangest playoffs in league history. NBA betting scandal, Tim Donaghy. In 2007, the league's integrity was thrown into question when referee Tim Donaghy was caught betting on NBA games, including ones he officiated. Donaghy admitted he had been placing bets since 2003, but investigators said the real money came when he manipulated games he worked on. Co-conspirators claimed he tipped them off about injuries, referee biases, and game flow. The FBI found his winning bets lined up suspiciously with his assignments, causing betting lines to swing wildly. Donaghy pled guilty to federal charges and served 15 months in prison. The scandal exploded further when he accused the league of stretching playoff series for money, pointing to the controversial 2002 Western Conference Finals. Though never proven, those claims fueled conspiracy theories that still circulate today. In response, the NBA tightened rules on referee conduct, gambling policies, and monitoring systems. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Cocaine crisis of the 1980s. During the late 1970s and 1980s, cocaine nearly consumed the NBA. Players like Michael Ray Richardson, John Drew, Roy Tarpley, and Spencer Haywood all lost their careers to drug suspensions. Rumors suggested that at the peak of the crisis, nearly half the league experimented with it, and some even used around games. The image of the NBA plummeted, ratings tanked, arenas emptied, and the finals were sometimes pushed to tape delay because fan interest collapsed. Commissioner Larry O'Brien downplayed the issue, but when David Stern took over, the crackdown began. He implemented a strict 3-strike policy: first offense counseling, second offense suspension, third offense a lifetime ban. The result was dozens of careers cut short, but it also helped save the league's future. By the early 90s, cocaine was largely purged from the NBA, and the league slowly rebuilt its reputation. This dark era remains one of the most damaging scandals in professional sports history. The Punch, Kermit Washington versus Rudy Tomjanovich. December 9th, 1977, turned into one of the ugliest moments the NBA has ever seen. A scuffle broke out between the Lakers and Rockets, and as Rudy Tomjanovich sprinted in to break it up, Kermit Washington turned and threw a devastating punch. The blow shattered Rudy's face, leaving him unconscious in a pool of blood. Doctors later revealed his injuries included a fractured skull, broken jaw, spinal fluid leakage, and facial bones detached from the rest of his skull. Most people with similar injuries didn't survive. Washington became vilified overnight, replayed endlessly on TV, mocked in comedy routines, and showered with hate mail. The league suspended him for 60 days, fined him $10,000, and rewrote rules for fighting. Rudy fought through a long recovery, but the incident forever altered his career. The punch didn't just scar one man. It forced the NBA to reshape its approach to on-court violence and discipline. Paul George's Team USA injury, August 1st, 2014, was supposed to be a celebration of American basketball. Team USA was scrimmaging in Las Vegas ahead of the FIBA World Cup, and Paul George was a lock to represent the country. But in one horrifying instant, his leg snapped against the stanchion after contesting a shot. The compound fracture silenced the gym as players turned away in shock. Coach K stopped the game immediately, and George was rushed into surgery that same night. At first, it seemed like his career might be over, but George attacked rehab with relentless determination. By late September, he was already putting weight on the leg. By April 2015, he made a surprise return, scoring 13 points in just 15 minutes against the Miami Heat. The recovery was nothing short of remarkable. George eventually returned to all-star form, proving that even the most gruesome setbacks don't have to define a player's future. Shaun Livingston's injury. February 26, 2007 was the night Shaun Livingston's career nearly ended. Driving to the basket against Charlotte, he landed awkwardly, and his left leg bent at an unnatural angle. The result was one of the worst injuries in NBA history: a torn ACL, PCL, and lateral meniscus, plus dislocations of his kneecap and joints in the leg. Doctors even considered amputation. Livingston spent months relearning how to walk, with basketball almost an afterthought. Many believed he would never step on an NBA court again. Yet years later, he not only returned, but became a key piece of the Golden State Warriors dynasty, winning 3 championships as a steady veteran presence. His journey stands as one of the greatest comeback stories in sports. The memory of that injury remains haunting, but his resilience turned a career that once seemed lost into one filled with redemption and triumph. Derrick Rose's injuries. Derrick Rose was supposed to be the NBA's next great guard. The youngest MVP in league history, he dominated with explosive speed and fearless drives. But in the 2012 playoffs, disaster struck. With just over a minute left in a game against Philadelphia, he tore his ACL. The injury sidelined him for an entire year, and even after surgery, his return was delayed as he refused to risk coming back too early. Fans grew impatient, but Rose insisted he had to be fully healthy. In 2013, his comeback was cut short by another injury, this time a torn meniscus in his other knee. His prime years slipped away through constant setbacks. Still, Rose reinvented himself. By the late 2000s and 10s, he became a crafty scorer, relying on floaters and controlled drives rather than raw athleticism. In 2019, he scored a career-high 50 points in Minnesota, proving his spirit was unbreakable. Rose's career is a reminder of both fragility and perseverance. Gilbert Arenas' gun controversy. December 24, 2009, revealed just how unpredictable NBA locker rooms could be. Reports surfaced that Gilbert Arenas stored unloaded guns in his locker, a violation of both team policy and Washington, D.C. law. Things escalated when it was alleged he and teammate Javaris Crittenton confronted each other with firearms during a dispute over gambling debts. Arenas tried to brush it off, even joking during a pregame by pointing finger guns at teammates, but the league wasn't laughing. Commissioner David Stern suspended him indefinitely, and by January 2010, both Arenas and Crittenton were banned for the rest of the season. Arenas pled guilty to carrying an unlicensed pistol and served 30 days in a halfway house. His career never fully recovered, and he later admitted the controversy destroyed his reputation. Once one of the NBA's brightest stars, Arenas became a cautionary tale of how fast everything can unravel when poor decisions collide with bad timing. Delonte West's struggles. Delonte West's story is as heartbreaking as it is complicated. Once a promising guard for the Cavaliers alongside LeBron James, his life spiraled after basketball. In 2016, he was photographed wandering in a hospital gown in Houston, sparking rumors of homelessness. He denied it, but more troubling images surfaced. In 2020, footage showed him in handcuffs on a highway, then later panhandling in Dallas. Mark Cuban stepped in, personally picking him up and funding his rehab. For a moment, West turned things around. He reunited with his family and even worked at a treatment center, but it didn't last. By 2022 and 2023, more videos showed him back on the streets, struggling again. In 2024, police used Narcan after he was found unresponsive, showing just how fragile his recovery had become. His story is not just about basketball, but the harsh reality of mental health battles and addiction that still impact him today. Chris Washburn's downfall. Chris Washburn entered the NBA in 1986 with sky-high expectations. Drafted 3rd overall by Golden State, he was touted as a future star. But just 3 years later, his career was over. Washburn failed 3 drug tests in as many seasons, triggering a lifetime ban under the NBA's strict policy. His brief career produced only 72 games and meager averages of 3 points and 2 rebounds, landing him on countless biggest bust lists. After basketball, things only got harder. He spent years battling addiction, often homeless and living in abandoned buildings. But eventually, Washburn turned things around, working in rehabilitation and trying to help others avoid his mistakes. For a time, he even ran a fried chicken restaurant in his hometown of Hickory, North Carolina. His story shows just how quickly promise can turn into survival, and how hard it can be to rebuild after losing everything. Minneapolis Lakers, Cornfield Landing, January 18th, 1960, could have been one of the darkest days in sports. After a game in St. Louis, the Minneapolis Lakers boarded a DC-3 airplane headed home. 10 minutes into the flight, the plane suffered complete electrical failure in the middle of a snowstorm. The heater, radio, and navigation systems all went dead. With no way to communicate and fuel running low, the pilots desperately searched for a place to land. At 1:30 in the morning, they spotted faint lights over Carroll, Iowa. With no airport in sight, the pilot landed the plane in a snow-covered cornfield. Miraculously, all 23 passengers survived, including stars like Elgin Baylor and Hot Rod Hundley. The plane stopped just hundreds of yards from nearby houses. Players later said they thought their time was up, but instead, they walked away into the freezing night. It stands as one of the closest near-death brushes in NBA history. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.